So,
Okay.
I don't know, has anyone got any questions?
I think that there's probably an acceptance that the stuff has to be removed and a site has to be found for it. I think that probably the concerns that have been raised is how it all seems to have been almost kind of last minute. Almost as if it was a planned operation to dig this over the weekend. No one knew about it. And, it's the process, I think, that's probably raising concerns rather than the actual.
And anyone who's spent any time in government will realise that we're just not clever enough to have those sorts of levels of conspiracy. We don't do that sort of thing. This has happened because, and the other thing I should have added, of course, is an apology to the German commissioners. Have already publicly apologised. We should have let them know. I think had we let German commissioners know, perhaps the story wouldn't have been quite so significant, because we would have kept everybody informed, and certainly we had kept Peel commissioners informed. And again, I do apologise to German for that. Apologies as well. I haven't brought Minister Ronan in, and I do.
He's doing a super job here, isn't he? But no, I think I'll affirm what Phil just said there in respects to German commissioners. If there's one thing we should have done, we should have done that. But what I will say, this you say rushed, Adrian. It certainly it seems rushed, but I can assure you there's been a process going on certainly since my time, my appointment as minister. One of the things we did do very early doors, Phil, when we got these roles, we called a very early meeting to look at the options available to us in clearing up the problem at Peel, which we've got to admit has been going on for too long now. There's been a lot of concerns raised by the boat owners at Peel and the community of Peel, and certainly the MHK. And what we did at that point through the Department of Infrastructure and ourselves was look at options available to us. Now these options unfortunately don't arrive overnight. It's something which we had to do a lot of work on, a lot of work to evaluate what we believe what we should be doing. We looked very, very seriously at sea disposal. That was seen when we looked at all the scenarios involving that. That certainly was too much of a risk in respects to our fishing industry, which is incredibly valuable to our economy and valued, may I say, as well. And also our international reputation, which, thank you very much, which we are very keen to build and grow on. We're looking for UNESCO Biosphere accreditation in the forthcoming year. This would have damaged us. So really, I think after a lot of work, a lot of research, we felt at that point a land-based option was probably the only way forward for us to go with the problem at Peel. And as at that point, really, we looked at various issues around the Isle of Man, Turkey lands down south and Stony Mountain. And really, you've got to remember that storing this stuff, we were responsible in respects to, we realised that there may be a problem with it. And the disposal at Turkey lands, which I've subsequently visited, is you look at the geography and the area around Poortown is probably perfect as a temporary store. You've seen you've got silting bins leading into the stream, which will gather all the heavy sediments. So really, from a DEFA perspective, we are comfortable with the arrangement at Poortown, although not maybe. The communications was lacking, and we agree with that. But we've got to move on with this.
And I think the other important point in terms of has this been sort of rushed through and working at weekends and stuff. It was actually the captain of the parish at German rang me on Monday morning and says, "I suppose you know what I'm ringing about." And I said, "Well, actually, no, I don't know what you're ringing about, John." And eventually he explained what he was ringing about, and I said, "Well, actually it's not unusual for the department to work on Saturdays and Sundays. We do it quite regularly, actually. Most of our port staff work weekends, and certainly the Minister had spent most of that weekend working on emails. So, you know, pick up the phone, ask me on Saturday, and I could have told you what was going on. But again, the communication particularly with German commissioners hasn't been good, and I do apologise for that.
You could have just announced what your plans were before you started doing any work, and that would have just paid off.
Yeah.
90% of the criticism.
I think that's absolutely correct.
We were holding out a hope from a privately run facility that they might take. It was realistically from the minute that they said no, although we've been working on it. Sorry to butt in here, but we had been hoping for that one of the privately run facilities would have taken the stuff. So it would have been a different announcement.
Said until stuff was happening at Poortown. That's still not letting the public know.
Yes, and we should have done better. I'll
How much
certainly.
is it costing?
The
The whole operation.
Around about 300,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, less than it would have been going out to a marina disposal site.
Yeah.
Well, just put to bed the idea that this is some kind of toxic loop. Then what's in this?
Well, I think
you've
got that in the question and answers bit. There's a table which can give you some detail. Primarily, the concern is lead, cadmium, and hydrocarbons. What are they called?
PAHs.
PAHs, which Byrne can no doubt give you the details on. That's basically things like oils relating to runoff into the harbour from petrol, diesel, things like that. There are going to be filters to try and remove a lot of that at the Poortown site as well. So it's, in relation to the heavy metals, the stream running next to the disposal site has more intensity of heavy metals than what we expect will be running off. So the background levels are higher than what will be running off from our disposal site. And as I say, the actual dust associated with this or the actual hard material, it's 20 times less of a risk than walking around any of the mine sites in the island. So I do appreciate we should have got that information out a bit sooner, and perhaps the story would have been less
Have you been
significant.
badly advised? I mean, you are the minister, you're taking responsibility, but there's this sort of ongoing question that you are just the figurehead to the operation, which you have to, probably because you know better, go along with your department's expert. Do you feel let down by your department?
I know that's a popular myth that in some way.
It was put by the Commodore of the Yacht Club in Beale.
Yeah, well, and it's a popular myth. It's not true, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, any department that I'm the minister of, I make the decisions, and I know Minister Ronan believes, operates in the same way. It is fair to say that some ministers have different approaches, but certainly, as far as I'm concerned, buck stops with the minister. The minister's absolutely clear about environmental issues. I've got a political reputation that I've built up over many years in that regard, and a personal reputation. I very firmly believe that we must do the environmentally responsible thing. That's what we are doing.
Do you feel let down then by your team?
No, I don't feel let down with the team. I think the team have worked exceptionally hard on this. They have put in huge amounts of work. If anything, the very point that's been made, I suppose, by the press this morning, where we've let ourselves down, and I suppose that's a joint responsibility for the two ministers, is we should have communicated this better at an earlier stage. And again, all I can do is hold my hands up and apologise for that.
Yes, I agree, and I think but what we mustn't take our eye off here is that we needed to get a job done, and
The ways of doing the job.
yes, Tim, I hear what you're saying.
Doing of the job, that's what's upset people, isn't it?
Doing the job has upset people.
The way it's been done.
The way it's been communicated, I think that's what you're saying. The way the job's being done, I don't think can be faulted. The way the communication's been done, there's no doubt about it. We can do it better. But just touching on your comments in respects to the Commodore at Peel Yacht Club. You know, it was a split interview, I thought, you know, where he was very grateful at the fact that Peel Marina at last was getting cleared. We've got to remember that one of the reasons and one the lobbying that's been done by the boat owners and yacht owners at Peel have been listened to, and we've acted on. But to come out with comments which I thought were off the cuff and I wish he wouldn't have done them, was to say that we're slinging the stuff over a hedge at Poortown, was not right and is not fair. You go down to Poortown and you actually have a look at the operation there, and the high levels of engineering that have gone on there are nothing short of excellent. And I would, if you can get on site, I strongly advise you go there. Now, you've got to remember, why are we doing this? There's one element here which we freely admit should have been better, is communication. German commissioners, first and foremost, absolutely, as representatives of that area. But the public, yeah, we take that on the chin, and we realise that we should have done this better. But I think really what I will say is the focus has been on getting the job done. Getting Peel back working again. We all recognise what an excellent job the marina has done for Peel's economy, the island's economy, and we had to get the job done. And I think what we are doing is everything we're doing environmentally, I think, is as good as we can do. The operations side of things is of a very high standard. So really, if we've got one issue here, I think we know what it is. I think if we can, you've got to appreciate.
You've made a rod for your own back, though, haven't you? Because you've got people, whether it be, you know, commissioners, the public, you've got their dander up because they feel they're being kept in the dark.
But you'd like to think, though, that once people become aware of the facts,
well, the first they've seen yesterday was the operation being done, and then stuff being, you know, spilt as it was then being taken.
I mean, there was some very alarmist rhetoric used yesterday.
Partly because people's dander is up, isn't it?
I'm not so sure, actually. Knowing the person who led, knowing the person who led on a lot of the speculation yesterday, or on Monday, Tuesday. What day are we on? Wednesday now.
Wednesday.
On Monday. You know, I know, you know, the particular person who was issuing the photographs has had some, I wouldn't say it's a vendetta necessarily, but he certainly had a grievance with the department and is a regular correspondent with the department. We're aware that he tried to disrupt the wagons in the way that he parked his vehicle. There's a few things that he's done which haven't been reported, but his pictures certainly did.
Carrying slops basically in a lot.
Yeah,
Big beef, wasn't it?
and people will make these sorts of comments. But again, you know, my view is, as far as I'm concerned, I like to be informed by fact. I don't like to be necessarily informed by opinion. So far, we've had opinion. We've held our hands up. You know, there's various reasons why we've not been able to get the facts out sooner, mainly as a result of some of the circumstances I've had to deal with. And you know, we're hopefully able now to move on. We are presenting the facts. We've got a well considered and researched load of information we've issued today. Hopefully those facts will now be reported. People will feel a lot calmer about that.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you've got to remember, this is a relatively big operation they're doing, and taking the dredgings out. I know they are trying to drain as much as they can. We did look at sort of putting areas where it could drain back into the basin in Peel. You know, what I can say is that, you know, I think this is a process which they all get right. Now, what happened on the day it started on Monday was basically, I think, could be described as a lot of reactionary, maybe a little bit of hysteria by a couple of people, saying there was slops being spilt on. I think one comment saying over 20% of the road. I went there yesterday. Certainly wasn't the case. I went there when had been a couple of hours of transportation as well. So they're going to get this right. You're going to get this right. But please, let's not take our eye off what we're doing here. We're trying to fix something which arguably could have said, you know, we should have been doing, or the government and the departments a few years ago should have been getting right, should have been dealing with this problem with a proper maintenance programme. I think, Phil, you've quite clearly pointed out and said that going forward, that, you know, we will make sure that there'll be a robust maintenance programme. We will certainly look at different ways of how that can happen, whether that's through yearly dredging or other methods, and certainly something that, you know, certainly from my side of things at DEFA, I want to see as well, because I don't want to go through this again.